let's start with the first requirement, which is our microcontroller. So again, then we will follow a procedure, and that will be like so I'm going to mention everything in this sheet, and after the session I will share this sheet with you. So let's suppose we have to select our main controller, right? We have to select our main controller. Now we don't know what are all the parameters that is required, right? So the first thing that we need to choose is we need to basically analyze what are the components or peripherals that we will going to connect. So for example, here they have mentioned it should have Ethernet. That means our microcontroller should support Ethernet connection either through PHY or directly. Like if it has integrated PHY, then like it is best option, right? So this is how we see, like we will analyze all the peripherals, like how many for example, we needed X GPIOs, right? We needed Y number of I2Cs, right? We needed Z number of UARTs, and again clock frequency is a option that we need to define, like what clock frequency is required for our project, right? This is also defined, like if you are generating PWM or any frequency component, you will know like, okay, we needed minimum this much frequency, right? Okay, so this is how after making these all list, we will see now we can move to the manufacturers. Okay, so again there are a lot of manufacturers available and those provide controllers, right? So what we will do, we'll just shortlist manufacturer on the basis of few parameter, and the first parameter will be like availability. So I'm just discussing these things randomly. This is how your thought process should be to select any controller. Okay, and here if you want to add, you can add more information like flash memory, what is the flash memory that is required, right? Okay, another thing can be what are the other parameters we use for controller. What is the RAM of controller, right? What are the voltage level of controller? This is also an important parameter, right? Suppose we are using the peripherals which support 3.3 voltage level, so that means we can't use 5 volt, and if we are using 5 volt, we have to use voltage level shifters for that, right? So that will be our extra hardware, right? So this is how we plan. So here we'll mention availability. Another thing will be the costing, right? So these are all the parameters we will compare between the different manufacturers. Or another parameters can be like it can be programming language also, right? Which programming language is supported by the controller, right? You have those resources available. I mean those resources should be open source or free to use, right? So this is also we see. Okay, so these are all the things that we see, but here like in our case I have defined like we will going to use STM32F407, and yeah, similarly we can ask this question like how to select the controller, how to select the debugger or programmer for this one, right? So see, debugger and programmer is the definition of these is like for STM32, this is our main controller, right? And we have to program this controller, right? So there is two ways to program it. One is either we will directly use its JTAG or other interface, right? But then we can't debug, right? We can't debug that using those pins, right? So that means we needed another controller with the same family. I will tell you why we needed the same family. Okay, so using that we can able to program it, and yeah, and as well as the debug, as well as we can debug our program also, right? So again, the second question is how to choose a debugger and what should be the parameters that we should follow for debugger. Okay, so here I'm just mentioning. So yeah, I was discussing how to choose a debugger and what should be the parameters that we should follow for debugger. Okay, So again, so the first thing is like we have two controllers on our PCB, right? And we don't want different software or different programming language for those controllers, right? Because like we have like limited resources and we have to follow that, right? So this is one requirement, like it should be from the same family. So we don't need a different type of software. That is one reason. That's why we use. So the first reason is controller should be from same family, right? So yeah, so for the selection of debugger, this is the first requirement. The controller should be from the same family. What should be the another requirement? Another requirement will be the number of bits, right? Number of bits of the debugger should be same as controller. Okay. So see, there are for that's why we choose number of bits, because it is really important. Why? Like we can process those number of bits at the same time. Okay. Another reason is if we go for the address, like how what are the number of address? So number of address is also related to number of bits. So it will be like 2 to the power number of bit, right? Am I right? Okay. So these are number of locations that where you can use where you can store the values, right? So that is why it is important. So it should be same, because if the number of bits will be less on the debugger, then during the program you can't access the higher address location. Okay. So that is another reason. Now we will see what should be the next reason. Another reason is the clock frequency. So again, clock frequency should be same for both of the controller, the debugger and our main controller. Okay. So that is also one reason, like it should be from the same family, so they support like same clock frequency. Okay. And yeah, and another is the programming method or the programming interface will be supported by both. So for example, if we need to program our main controller, we needed JTAG or SWD. Okay. And if it is not supported by your debugger, then like it is just waste of component, right? I mean, we are not using debugger in the right way. Okay. So that means debugger should also support these JTAG and SWD programming interfaces, right? So again, it should support the programming interface. So these are a few mandatory information or few mandatory parameters that a debugger should have. Only then we can use it to program our main controller, right? So that is one thing. Okay. So from here, like we know like what is the role of our main controller and how we have selected it. If we don't know like which controller we are going to use, okay, so we have to just analyze all the peripherals that we're going to connect and just see like what are the requirement of our controller, and then we will go for different manufacturer and see the availability of resources, etc. Right? For to understand